I'm Nathan Jones. Today, everybody better have the wool on in the long johns. We're headed to North Dakota. We're hunting whitetails at the Diamond J Ranch. When we rolled into camp, the temperature was dropping and the snow was flying. But as all of you know, that can change overnight. After we struggle with the single-digit weather in North Dakota, I'm taking you all down to South Texas in the brush country. We're going to be slamming hogs with Joe Lee at 2L Outfitters. I'm certainly glad you all chose to hunt with us today. This is Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes.
Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes is being brought to you by Dead Downwind. At Dead Downwind, 99% just isn't good enough. Martin Archery, making the most accurate bows for over 50 years. Double Bull Archery, home of the Dark Archer. Height Point Broadheads, hunt with the best. And Huntress, scent prevention formulated for the female hunter. And also by these other great companies: Kicking Bear One-on-One, Mossback Game Calls, Copper John, Doinker Stabilizers, Lone Wolf Tree Stands, Women Hunters, and Chateau Berry.
Awesome! That is Wild Extreme. Yes!
This segment of Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes is being brought to you by Dead Downwind. At Dead Downwind, 99% just isn't good enough. This would be my second time to hunt the Diamond J Ranch in North Dakota. The year before, I was fortunate enough to take a great buck, and from what Scott Fladlin, the owner-operator of the Diamond J, had told me prior to my arrival, was that the quality of bucks were just getting better. Scott had been seeing an awesome 8-point buck crossing the top of this hayfield, but with no trees large enough to support a tree stand, I was in hopes that a double bull blind was going to help us get the job done. Relying on a rock pile and snow to break up the blind, we sprayed down with our Dead Downwind and got ready to slam a good one.
Here we are. It's right after Christmas. 21 hours back up here. We're back on our rock pile. We just got the double bull set back up. I went down and scouted, and those deer are coming through here, and it looks like some pretty good sized tracks, so I'm confident we've got more bucks in here. We shot a buck. Matt shot a buck on the skyline with the camera, but last evening we were here, and Scott's daughter Lacey got him with the bow. He's a beautiful deer, and that was cool for her to knock down a deer like that. So we're just going to put in our time tonight and hope and pray and trust that these deer are going to come right up the gullet of this little finger of timber.
Winter was certainly clutching the Diamond J with its icy fingers that evening, but that just gave me more confidence in our position. When you have an impending storm approaching, it just inspires the deer to move earlier to the food sources. Scott had shown us where he thought the deer were feeding, so we started backtracking the sign to try to figure out where the deer were bedding. The spot I picked was a mile from the food source. The deer this evening definitely didn't disappoint me. With plenty of light, 2 small bucks showed up, and even though they were feeding directly downwind from us, our dead downwind kept us invisible. At this point, I was just hoping that our luck would hold out and that the big boy Scott had seen in the area would be following closely behind. I had just finished watching the 2 small bucks feeding slowly past the blind when I happened to look to my left and my heart almost stopped. The 8 points Scott had told us about was staring intently in our direction, and from his body posture I realized that he was going to jump the fence and continue following the smaller buck that was walking our way. At this time, my heart kicked in so hard I could hear it pounding in my ears. But at the same time, I knew a lot could go wrong before the buck closed the 200-yard gap that separated us. The smaller buck was now within my effective bow range, and had not a clue we were even on the planet. As he fed quietly, his big buddy slowly closed the gap separating us. My heart was doing double time as I watched the huge rack bob in time with each step. Steps that, if they continued, would soon have me clicking the range off and drawing my marten bow. What you're about to see is why they're big. Not necessarily because they're always that smart, but rather sometimes they certainly get lucky. When this big boy stopped and started pawing the freshly fallen snow, I clicked off the yardage and started to draw my marten and finish the game. The buck was within my effective range, but I thought if he'd just come 20 more yards, it'll be even better. And then the unthinkable happened. And that's exactly where the huge buck remained, even after it was too dark to see. Talk about getting lucky. But what great insight into how a big mature whitetail operates when they're heading to a food source. When you're sitting on a food plot, or even when you're hunting bait and a shooter buck doesn't show during legal shooting light and you're wondering, where is he? Well, he just might be a mile distant, contentedly chewing his cud while he waits for total darkness. The huge buck may have won this round, but we would return to play the game again the next day. Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes will return in a moment. This segment of Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes is being brought to you by Double Bull Archery, home of the Dark Archer, and by Martin Archery, making the most accurate bows for over 50 years. I had spent the next 4 days hunting that big ape, but we never laid eyes or camera on him again, so it was time to move to a new area. This was our last day of the hunt, and I wanted to make this day count. A couple days previous, we had a great encounter with a young buck that needed just a couple more years on him. He had approached within 15 yards of the blind and tested my resolve, but I held off because you can't shoot the big ones if you pull the trigger on the little ones. So I left my marten bow on its holder and just enjoyed a very close encounter. For this last hunt, we found a wild plum thicket that was positioned between 2 travel corridors. The temperature had risen considerably, so I knew we would be dealing with deer that would be a little tardy this evening. I'm a firm believer in cutting shooting lanes. I figure, why sit there looking at them if you can't make the shot? So out came the saw and the pruners, and we got busy. We got our shooting lanes cut, the blind set up, and once again got ready to capitalize on any opportunity.
Well guys, this is it for our hunt here at Diamond J. And we have given her hell, Harry. We have hunted hard, had some great encounters. They've got some tremendous deer here, but there's times with these whitetail bucks, these big mature bucks, that they just get lucky. And I'm not making any excuses for the amount of bad luck that we've had here. We've had some great encounters, and tonight it could be, we could have one of those big dogs walk up and introduce him to a tight point. So we're going to, we're once again eye level with these guys. We're in our double bull rocking out, and we're going to get sprayed down with our dead downwind because we have got deer trails coming in from actually all sides of us. But one thing we found out, we've discovered that actually, you know, when you're using dead downwind and a double bull, this blind actually helps contain your scent. And the dead downwind definitely does its job to prevent it. The other night we had a great young buck, actually probably pushing Pope and Young, directly downwind from us. Never spooked. Was suspicious of the blind only because we had just put it up. And once these deer get used to them, waltz right past them. And even though that buck was suspicious of the blind, we could have pulled the Martin back on him because he was right there 20 yards from us. But tonight, I hope we have a big boy within bow range of us. So we are going to get ready to hunt.
Tonight, I had decided that if no shooter buck showed, I would do the next best thing and practice a little QDM for Scott. It was the last day of the hunt, and taking a doe out of the herd would do nothing but strengthen the herd here at Diamond J Ranch.
There's a deer coming right there. It's a doe. There comes that doe back. If she comes up here, I'm going to take her.
She stopped just short of my first shooting lane, glanced our way, and then bounded through it. Now you're about to see why I like to have several shooting lanes cut. The doe stopped to look back one more time, only this time she was standing directly in the center of my second lane.
There you go, guys. That's how you end a North Dakota hunt. I'm telling you what, we have put in our time out here. Well, guys, here's another great hunt at Diamond J. And this is the end of the season, and we have duked it out. And while a lot of you may not think this is a trophy, I'll tell you what, for me it is. You saw what we took here last year at Diamond J, and you saw what we encountered this year. Those great bucks, and we will be back. We will definitely be back next year, because this is one of my favorite places to hunt whitetail deer in the entire world. I mean, this is too cool. And it was getting late. This is the last night. We got to be in the truck in the morning. And I told my cameraman, Matt, you know, we're sitting in there in the double bull, and I said, it gets dark enough. These deer it got warm on us. The deer weren't really moving. And I told him, we get a chance at one of these does out here, I'm gonna take her. Because what that does, not only does it make you a better hunter as far as being better with your equipment, it's great to practice on an animal, but this helps Scott out. I mean, it helps any outfitter or any property that you guys and gals hunt out there. Take your does, you know. You want to keep your herd healthy. You got to have a great buck to doe ratio, and that's what we help Scott with right here at Diamond J.
This segment of Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes is being brought to you by Huntress, scent prevention formulated for the female hunter, and by Tight Point Broadheads. Now you're hunting with the best. We are now going to make a stop in the brush country of South Texas at the Espejo Ranch, outfitted by Joe Lee, who has 2L Outfitters. Joe invited me down to try my hand at slammin' hogs. It was the middle of winter, all other seasons were closed, so my bow case and duffel were packed, and before I knew it, I was 2,000 miles from the house looking at hogs directly in front of my blind. There is no other domesticated animal that reverts back to the wild as fast as a hog. In fact, studies have been done showing that pen-raised domestic hogs, when released into the wild, within weeks will start growing longer hair. And if you don't think these guys use their noses to detect danger, you'd better think again. These animals are tough any way you look at them, and after the hunt was over, I will admit they are definitely fun to hunt. On this hunt, Joe also wanted a few cull bucks shot if the chance arose. A cull being a mature buck sporting 8 points or less. On the first evening of the hunt, I caught this buck walking up a sendero. The buck fit into the cull category, so now all I had to do was to crawl up on him and get an arrow in him. Simple, huh? I crawled as close as I could and then got ready to finish the game. But as in a lot of cases, this hunt would come with a twist.
That deer's gonna walk right down to you. I don't know if he's a shooter or not. He's an 8-pointer, but I don't know. I need to see him sideways. He's not doing it. Oh, there comes some hogs. There's some hogs right behind him. Right with him. How about this for Texas hunting? We've got blood right here.
Oh, here it lays right here, guys. Right here. Right here. What a great pig. And another good animal to take off the ranch, and this hog is definitely gonna make some great pork chops. Thanks for hanging out and enduring the cold in the cactus with us today. I have to thank Scott Flaidland for a tremendous hunt, and also Joe Lee for putting us on the hogs in the brush country. Both of those outfitters, immediately upon us arriving at camp, treated us like family. And I promise you guys will see us back in camp this year. To book a hunt of your own with either one of these great outfitters, just call the number that ran during the show, or go to our website, wildextremes.tv. Click on the Preferred Outfitters page. There, you can link directly to either one of these guys. I also want to say I appreciate all of the support and the emails from all of you guys and gals, because without doing what you do, I couldn't do what I do. I'll see all of you right here next time, where the slammin' will continue.
Dead Downwind's Wild Extremes has been brought to you by Dead Downwind. At Dead Downwind, 99% just isn't good enough. Martin Archery, making the most accurate bows for over 50 years. Double Bull Archery, home of the Dark Archer. Tight Point Broadheads, hunt with the best. and Huntress scent prevention formulated for the female hunter. And also by these other great companies: Kicking Bear One-on-One, Mossback Game Calls, Copper John, Doinker Stabilizers, Lone Wolf Tree Stands, Women Hunters, and Chateau Berdin.
Man, he got us a monster.
This has been a Wild Serenade production.